So if we rewind time 1 year from today, so today is April 26th when we are recording this video, April 26th, 2023, and we look at all of these set releases that have come out. We had Paldea Evolved, then we had Obsidian Flames, then we had Scarlet and Violet 151, then we had Paradox Rift, I think this is the order that it went in, then we had Temporal Forces, which was then we had Paldean Fates, which was number 5, then we had Temporal Forces, which is number 6, and now we are 4 weeks away from the release of the 7th set in the calendar year, which will be Twilight Masquerade. That's absolutely insane. That's 7 fingers. That is 7 fanny fingers right there. That is absolutely crazy. Paldea Evolved, in Pokemon's defense, came out in June. It was a little bit later of a release than what we're typically used to, so it's technically, we'll call it six sets, but that's still way more. Like if we rewind time even further back to like Black and White days or before Black and White, Pokemon released 3 sets a year. Then they released 4 sets a year. And then they started including specialty sets, and then they would release 1 of those every calendar year. And now we get 2 every calendar year. So this year we've already had Paldean Fates. Some point in August, I think, is when we will get the next specialty set. And it looks like they're going to continue with this whole ideology of 6 sets per year. But we talked about this a bit yesterday. I really think we need to go back to like a quantity or a quality over quantity type thing. Like, it's fun to collect cards. It's fun to master sets. And I will be the first one to tell you, I love opening booster packs of Pokemon cards, but it gets to a point where there's just too much, and I feel like we could do more. And we're going to talk about that kind of in today's video when we talk about Twilight Masquerade, because Twilight Masquerade, while it looks like a good set, and I am curious to hear what your opinions are, and here I will just say it straight out of the gate right away. I think Twilight Masquerade is better than Scarlet and Violet base, better than Obsidian Flames, and probably equal to Paradox Rift. I think that is it. I do not think it's better than Temporal Forces. I do not think it's better than Paldea Evolved, and that's just talking about the specialty sets. There is 1 additional special illustration rare in Twilight Masquerade, 1 more special illustration rare than what we had in Temporal Forces. I do think pull rates will stay the same, so they nerfed pull rates quite a bit. Pokemon card pull rates have changed. You are no longer guaranteed a special illustration rare or a hyper rare in your booster box. In fact, 40% of the booster boxes that we opened up from Temporal Forces did not have a special illustration rare or a hyper rare, which is absolutely insane. So I do think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to pull some of those higher end rarity cards, but there is 1 less illustration rare. So very, very similar to what we saw from Temporal Forces. It seems like there's just not going to be quite as much hype. And if we look at Twilight Masquerade, the set list, which we will after we talk about it a little bit. So you only really, like, if you haven't looked at it, if you don't want it spoiled, I will let you know. I will give you fair warning before we look at the actual visual card set list for Temporal Forces, because I don't want you to ruin anything for yourself. But if you look at the actual visual, a lot of people just are not a fan of the Scarlet and Violet mines, and this is not abnormal. Like, we have had this every single new generation. Like, I remember when things rolled over to the Sun and Moon era, there was not a whole lot of hype behind a lot of these Sun and Moon Pokemon that came out, like Wishy-Washy and Palossand and Pyukumuku, and there was not a whole lot of hype behind it. And then Sun and Moon was rough for the first several sets. We had a lot of people who got back into the hobby, back into the game because of Pokemon Go. Sun and Moon base did okay, and Guardians Rising did okay, and obviously you had a lot of competitive cards. And then Burning Shadows with the Charizard hype, a Crimson Invasion, everything took a big step back, and then they short printed Ultra Prism, and then you started getting a little bit better in sets. But then you didn't really have like this explosion of like really cool cards until the tag team sets hit, until like Lost Thunder hit, and then you had Unbroken Bonds and Cosmic Eclipse and Team Up and Unified Minds, and then things got better. Like, people started enjoying collecting the cards a little bit more, but even then it wasn't like a giant return to the hobby. A lot of people had kind of already left for good, and then you had this entry into Sword and Shield, and there wasn't a whole lot of hype behind the Sword and Shield Pokemon either. There wasn't a whole lot of love for Double. Like, you had some people who got really excited about Zacian and Zamazenta and maybe Dragapult, but other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of love, and it took a while to get going, and here we are, Scarlet and Violet about halfway through the generation, and now still not a whole lot of excitement. So I'm still confident that something's going to come down the road that's going to drive a lot of people back, but still people are focusing on a lot of Sword and Shield sets. And we could focus in this video about Lost Origin going out of stock on the Pokemon Center website, but we're going to save that video for another day. People are just focusing on Sword and Shield because they like Sword and Shield, and they are not ready to really just dive into Scarlet and Violet. Outside of some of the special illustration rares, maybe the illustration rares, there's just not all. I don't I don't understand. I mean, I understand why, but I personally do enjoy the new Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet. I enjoy the new storytelling, all the illustration rares, all the special illustration rares. But that's just my opinion. You're more than welcome to have your own opinion. If you don't like Scarlet and Violet Generation, like that, I totally get it. I understand where you're coming from. The funny hats, I get where you're coming from. But it's struggling. It's struggling big time. And if I flip you guys around and we look, Scarlet and Violet released in March of 2023. So we are 13 months removed from the release of this new generation. And if you look at where booster boxes are currently sitting, it's crazy to me. It is crazy to think about. $498.88 is what you can do. You can go on eBay. You can buy a sealed case of Scarlet and Violet base for less than $500 per booster box. So 80 times 6 is 480. You're looking at like $82.50, $83, somewhere around there for an entire case per booster box. The way that breaks down is crazy to me because I know what wholesale costs are, right? Like I know this person is probably playing P Football Pete, probably gets like insane discounts because of the amount of volume that he does. But even the best of discounts, there is no, like you're probably not even breaking even on this. You are probably taking a loss on this because you have to free up space for the next set, for sets that are going out. It's crazy to me to think about. Now, I wanted to record this video because I know what is going to happen. I know I do think Pokemon is backing off a little bit because of everything that's the demand just isn't there, right? Like we just talked about this. A lot of people are still focused on Sword and Shield. And this happened with Temporal Forces where there was this giant decline in allocations, and you heard about it all over the content verse, like everywhere. It was like, okay, Temporal Forces is short printed. Was it short printed? Well, yeah, it was. It was printed less, not necessarily short printed. And I think that is what we need to remember moving forward, because there is going to be content out there talking about how short printed Twilight Masquerade is, because it does seem allocations were not great for Temporal Forces. They're going to be worse for Twilight Masquerade. At least that is what is being communicated to me from distributors. I got my allocation numbers and they are lower than what they have ever been for quite some time. And when I'm asking about it, well, they aren't printing as many booster boxes. They're not providing us with as many booster boxes. And there's multiple reasons behind that. So number one reason that we're going to look at is because booster boxes are sold in big box stores. This did not happen before. And they're not even being sold for MSRP anymore. So this is GameStop. You can go to GameStop.com if you want. You only trust GameStop. Let's say you just only buy Pokemon cards from GameStop. Okay, more power to you. You can buy Twilight Masquerade. You can pre-order this set. What is MSRP? MSRP is over $160. If you go to PokemonCenter.com, which they will only sell their product at MSRP, you can see the MSRP for this product, $161 or something like that. If you go to GameStop, they're selling it for $129.99. So they are already cutting this box. This box is already $30 off of MSRP. If you're a pro member, you get an additional $6.50 off. So already selling for considerably less than MSRP. If you go around, you look on TCG Player, you look at different sites, you can buy them for $100. We have a special up where it's $330 for 3 booster boxes and an Elite Trainer box because the demand isn't there. So even though you're getting less, you are getting significantly less than what you may have got from previous releases because there is less that is being distributed. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's being less distributed all over the place, because they are changing how they are doing things. Maybe they are backing off of booster boxes, but the reason that they're backing off of booster boxes is really just because demand isn't there. A. B, if demand does turn to be like this big thing, then they'll just reprint it. They'll just print more of it. Like this is obviously a set that's going to be in standard play for quite some time, so they're going to want it out there, but they're not going to want to eat up all those costs right away if nobody's going to buy it. And you can see already, even GameStop is like, well, this set isn't going to be as popular. We're going to sell it for $130 because we're still sitting on all these Temporal Forces boxes, on all these Paradox Rift boxes. Here's Best Buy right here. This is coming soon. So this was a $161 booster box, but we're going to charge $41 less, and we're going to charge $119.99. So another big box store that sells booster boxes that didn't sell booster boxes before because they only sold, booster packs, maybe sleeve boosters, Elite Trainer boxes, things like that. Now they're selling booster boxes, and they're already selling them for $41 less than MSRP. The set doesn't come out for a month. That's crazy to me that already these big box stores are already discounting it, probably because of the amount that they are already sitting on. So here is a snip from the Pokemon Center website. It's nice that they updated the picture of the booster bundle because it is different here, but you can see $161.64. The Elite Trainer box, $59.99. Here is the snip from TCG Player already coming way down. And the reason behind this is really loaded with different reasons. But the reason behind this is because A, you're just not getting as popular of a set. There doesn't seem to be as much demand. So that's why it would be great if you can just comment down below and let me know what you think of the set. If you're excited about Twilight Masquerade, there are some cool cards in the set. There's a lot of really cool cards in the set, actually. This is one of the best illustration rare galleries that we have had, probably since Paldea Evolved, but everything else probably not living up to the hype of what, you know, I think a lot of people were hoping as far as the special illustration rares go, but already down to $105.21. So even though there's going to be less available, less that is distributed, doesn't necessarily mean that short print. Really, we have short demand. Short demand leads to less printing. So since people are seeing, and demand is driven by so many different factors. So since people are seeing this price happen, since people are seeing this price not do well, since they're seeing the buzz and people saying, hey, I'm not going to collect any of Twilight Masquerade, that demand, that really changes all over, because you can be interested in the set for a multitude of reasons, right? There's people who collect Pokemon cards for money. They collect Pokemon cards for value. They invest in Pokemon cards. So if they see a set that's coming out that they think is going to be very hyped up and they can buy it for $95, $90 a booster box, they're going to jump on that. But if they see, well, this set looks reminiscent of Scarlet and Violet base, and here we are a year and a month removed from the release of a Scarlet and Violet base, and still booster boxes are selling for $83, I'm not going to jump on this set at $100 because I think this is going to go down to $83. So that demand isn't there. From a playability standpoint, there's some decent cards in the set, but they're going to buy singles. They're not going to be focusing on buying packs or buying boxes and opening up. And the collectors are like, well, you know what? They nerfed the pull rates. There's not as much in this set that I'm really that excited about, so I'm just going to buy singles too. And all of a sudden, you have no demand. You have no demand for a new set. And that's why we talk about quality over quantity, because if they weren't rushing all these sets all the time to hit their six set per year new norm, then maybe we would have something a bit different. And like I said, I'm personally very excited about Twilight Masquerade. I think it's going to be a good set. I think it's going to be better than Scarlet and Violet. I think it's going to be better than Obsidian Flames, but at the same time, I understand why some people might not be as excited. So here's some eBay snips right here. You can buy Twilight Masquerade for less than $100 per booster box for a case. You can buy it for $101.88. You can buy it on the Card Coliseum for $100 a piece, and then an ETB for $30. That's just the demand. That's just the market. That's just where we are right now, and there's no change in sight until we see something that's really going to spark demand. And that might be the August specialty set. That might be, you know, new alternate art mega tag teams or something. I don't know what's going to happen, but Pokemon always does pull something out eventually that really sparks this giant change in demand. Here's one for, I forget which set this was, Smoke and Mirrors. I think this was $94.99. I mean, that's you're basically at wholesale at that point. You're very, very close to wholesale. This is not going to be making a lot of money for storefronts, but they really have to continue to stock stuff. And we were talking about this in the Discord the other day. If you're not stocking stuff, if you're not buying Pokemon, then if Pokemon does come out with a banger of a set, like let's just talk Scarlet and Violet 151. That was a good set. That was a good set that released, that a lot of people were really hyped about, that they were excited about, and they were willing to buy it close to MSRP. So an ETB, which sells for $50, they might have been willing to buy it at $45, $46, $47. And while that's not MSRP and your margin isn't as big as it could be, it's still a lot better than where it is right now. Now you are getting basically nothing. So storefronts are like, okay, well, I guess we'll just try and break even on this product, and hopefully the next product will do better. And we will try and adapt and find something else that is going to push some sort of margins, because right now this ain't doing it. All right, so we are going to stop looking at Twilight Masquerade information. We're going to switch over to look at the actual set list, actual visual cards. So if you don't want to be spoiled or anything like that, obviously you can end the video right now. Make sure you hit the like button, obviously. But I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but I wanted to record something that kind of talked about what is going to probably come, and that's going to be short print rumors and things like that. And the honest truth is, yes, it is going to be printed less. It is going to be distributed less. Your LGS is probably going to get less. Now, that could be something that they just purposely did. Maybe they ordered less, or maybe they're being allocated less, but the reason behind it is because it's very simple. Demand isn't there, and Pokemon is also sourcing a lot of big box retailers a lot of product, and they're not even selling them for MSRP because the demand isn't there. Okay, I'm going to switch you guys around. We're going to look at the visual set list. So we've got some ace specs in the set. Ace specs are going to continue. So there's only, I think, 5 in this set, right? Oh, 6. 6 in the set. You do have another version, or the return of Scoop Up Cyclone, which is really, really cool. Very excited about Scoop Up Cyclone. There is going to be a fair amount of competitive trainers in the set. This is going to impact the format a little bit. So that is going to be interesting. Again, this doesn't release for 4 weeks, which means you're still looking at 6 weeks or so. Really, international championships, world championships, that's what's going to see impact from this format change. Like, you are not going to see a whole lot of regional events happening because they're pretty much all done at that point. And I mean, you're going to have League Cups, and that's pretty much it. But it's got some of the coolest illustration rares I have ever seen. I think this Pinsir looks absolutely amazing. You've got this cool Sunflora over here, Dipplin over here. I can't even say this one, Poltergeist or whatever its name is, Torkoal, Infernape. Lots of really, really cool arts. This Frostlass looks amazing. Fion with the Spheals in the background looks really, really cool. You've got Watchroll and Chimecho. You've got a Probopass. You've got an Enamorus, which looks different than any Enamorus pretty much that they've already printed. I do think there's going to be a couple of really chase cards in here for illustration rares, like the Hisuian Growlithe, because people just like it, and it's a different viewpoint of another full art trainer card, which I think people are going to get very excited about the way that they do artwork. Definitely artwork quality is still really, really good. Card quality, I think, needs to improve, and we've seen that with lower pop reports than what are being expected. But even, so you've got a Probopass, even like Timber, not an overly popular Pokemon. If Timber is your favorite Pokemon, I apologize. But Timber, very cool artwork. Very cool, which is awesome. You've got Applin over. Tatsuguri looks really cool. I love the artwork. I love the style right there. The Chansey looks great. And obviously you have the Eevee in the set. Very interesting the way that they kind of threw Eevee in here. And it almost seems like, okay, well, why are they putting Eevee in this set? It's a little confusing because Eevee, it doesn't seem to fit with everything else that's going on in the set, especially because it's such a big Ogerpon set. Like, it's very, very, very focused on Ogerpon. Then you've got a bunch of full arts in the set, a little bit less than what we typically get. You've got a lot of the full art shiny or the Tera Pokemon, including Dragapult. We're not getting a Dragapult special illustration rare, which is very, very surprising to me. You're not getting a Screamtail special illustration rare. I know you got one for an illustration rare already. Ursaluna is really cool. You do get a cool Ursaluna special illustration rare, which is really nice. But Ogerpon's all over the place, plus a Greninja. Now, Greninja doesn't really fit a whole lot, and these are the special illustration rares here. And a lot of people not super hyped. There's different variants of the Ogerpons that are coming out. I think when it got leaked, or the information was fed to everybody that these are the special illustration rares and not the full arts. I think when this was thought to be a full art in the set, people were like, oh, this could be a really cool set. I can't wait to see what they do with the special illustration rare. And then when it got announced that these were the special illustration rares, I think a lot of people were like, oh, well, that's okay. Not really that interested then. So you've got 4 different variants of the Ogerpon, but still some cool looking special illustration rares. Like I said, you get 1 more than you did in Temporal Forces, but with pull rates being nerfed, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Obviously, you've got this really cool Greninja EX. This one should be relatively strong in competitive Pokemon, but we'll see what happens. And then you've got some really cool special illustration rare supporters like Perrin and like Lana. Like, it's very, very cool looking, very cool looking special illustration rare supporters. Now these a little bit more. You get a few more than what we normally get. So you get 4 special illustration rare supporters, which should help. And then you've got gold cards, which are really cool. Obviously, Enhanced Hammer. You've got Buddy Buddy Poffin in there. Those are going to be impacted. You've got Rescue Board. You've got Luminous Energy. You get the Ogerpon gold, and then you get the Ursaluna gold. And you have a few here. These are just going to be promo cards. These aren't in the actual main series set. So there's a lot of cool cards in the set, but it's really heavily favored towards, I think, the illustration rares more so than the special illustration rares. Now, your full art supporter special illustration rares, these will probably be the chase cards, especially over in Japan. I would assume Mask of Change. These are the ones that people are chasing. Crimson Haze, that's what they're chasing. But you still get illustration rares that are basically knocking on the park. The Infernape is absolutely gorgeous. The Growlithe, really, really cool looking. Like I said, I love the Tatsugiri. The full art's not too bad. And the special illustration runners, I mean, I get where people are coming from. I think 4 of the 7 people are like a little bit let down, and I think that's what's driving demand further and further away for the set. And maybe people are already looking towards August just to see what the special release is going to be. So you can let me know in the comments section down below what you think of Twilight Masquerade. But I wanted to record a video to kind of just make sure to remind people that this is where we are now. Like this is the new normal. This is the same as the old normal. We are not in pandemic times anymore. Allocations being cut or allocations being low does no longer mean that it's going to be low stock on the shelves. This will be readily available all over the place at discounted prices, probably below wholesale prices. It's going to be absolutely crazy. So even though there's going to be less that is allocated to a lot of LGSs, and that, again, the LGS might be purposely ordering less or it might just be allocated less, the reasoning behind it is because there's just less demand. So Pokemon is printing less, distributing less. They can always reprint, and that's the same thing with Temporal Forces. If Temporal Forces was short printed, which it was less printed, I wouldn't call it short printed, but they'll just reprint it. They'll just print more of it because you have a reprint window of a couple years, and while it takes time to reprint, they can kind of sense, okay, well, how much stock is out there. They have a warehouse where they store, all their extra booster boxes. If they get communicated from distribution saying, hey, we are running low, we need more, they can look and they can see, okay, well, this will last us like 6 months. We're gonna have to print more of this. This is no different than how they used to do things. That's why you always had Evolutions in stock, Burning Shadows in stock, because even though it was put in every single collection box and a lot of people opened it, Pokemon could really do a good job of keeping up with the interest and the demand level. And right now we are back at that point, unlike what we saw with like Evolving Skies, where you just couldn't print to demand because there was too much demand. So I hope you enjoyed the content. If you do, please hit that subscribe button down below, leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a long way for the algorithm, but most importantly, I just really appreciate you guys sitting here talking Pokemon with me. I love you guys. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Until next time, peace!